How tall do you think Jimmy Stewart is?
11'9", I would say. No,
11'9"?
no, I'd
No,
say he's
give me a
like
real
probably
guess.
like he's probably like your height. He's probably like 6'3" or 6'4",
I feel like Jimmy Stewart is maybe like secretly like
5'10".
5'11" or something. He is 6'3", so good
Hell yeah.
eyes. Good eyes,
Thanks,
good
man.
ears.
Thanks, man.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that Michael Bay shit. They want the shit that pops. Oscar bait, black and white. Maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.
Yum, yum.
Oscar Wieners.
Welcome to Oscar Wieners,
Bonjour.
the only show on the internet for Hollywood's biggest night. Plays the harmonica.
Oh, quite well. As a duet, hopefully.
I am Monopoly.
Ooh, and I'm Beelzebub Eisenhower.
I'm Joseph McCarthy.
I'm Joseph McCarthy. You're fucking under arrest. How about that?
Shouldn't have been a communist.
Bozo?
Charlie Chaplin.
Get the fuck out with your... Sid, speak up, why don't you?
I don't know what you're thinking when you're so quiet like that.
Makes me nervous.
No, I'm Michael. He's Ander, and this is a
Hi.
podcast where every week we pick a Best Picture winner at random and try to figure out does that Best Picture pay its taxes? Um, this
This
week we're
one
talking.
doesn't.
This week we're talking about the 19. What year was it? 40? 1939 Best Picture winner. You Can't Take It With You, directed by I was about to say Frank Capra.
What else he does? What else he does?
He does It's a Wonderful Life.
It's a Wonderful Life. That's right.
I think we're also going to cover, I'm pretty sure this won Best Picture as well. It Happened One Night from 1934. Yeah, so You Can't Take It With You is the story of Alice, the only relative. I would try and sum it up just out of my head, but I feel like there's a lot of moving parts in this story, even though it's like fairly simple.
It's a Romeo and Juliet type story, really, right?
Basically, yeah, basically. So Alice, the played by Jean Arthur, is the only relatively normal member of the eccentric Sycamore family, and she falls in love with Tony Kirby, played by Jimmy Stewart.
Hey,
But his wealthy banker father and snobbish mother strongly disapprove of the match. When the Kirbys are invited to dinner to become better acquainted with their future in-laws, things don't turn out the way Alice had hoped.
no way. I finally get it. I finally get Jimmy Stewart and his appeal. I really do. Because when he came on screen, I was like, there he is. There's my old pal, James.
Yeah. Obviously, a lot of these old movies that we watch, depending on what they are, I'm usually like dragging my feet, but I knew we were in good hands with Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah, I felt safe with him.
There's something modern about the characters he plays, like that
Yeah.
resonates still. Like he's sort of like grumpy and frustrated, and but also like he will just like laugh in a way that feels genuine at just shit that's happening.
He's the best in the business at the exasperated stand up and shove your hands in your pockets technique.
100%.
He's the best in the biz.
It also helps that he's like 9 feet tall, and so like when he's like standing and like kicking a little rock, you're like, wow, that's a tall man doing that. There's something
It
like
just makes me
dramatic
trust
about
him.
it. Yeah.
George Washington style, I guess.
He casts a long shadow.
They did a bit of a role reversal in this one, huh? Because the banker from It's a Wonderful Life is the nice old man, correct?
Grandpa Vanderhoff is played by Lionel Barrymore, who plays Mr. Potter in It's a Wonderful Life. And I feel like there are even little like bit actors in this movie that pop up again in It's a Wonderful Life. Like Alice's dad, Paul, who like makes fireworks in the basement like a maniac.
For
He's in It's a
children.
Wonderful Life. I forget who he is, but I think he's like works in like the like Jimmy Stewart's father's office or something.
This whole movie really feels like Capra just kind of took everything and retooled it and made It's a Wonderful Life. And I feel
This
like
is
It's a
the
Wonderful Life is the better version of this, weirdly
this is
enough.
this is my whole take. I was kind of blown away watching this movie, being like, oh, this is like a trial run for It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah, feels like that totally.
Like It's a Wonderful Life is like a way more pared down and simple version of this story. Because I feel like You Can't Take It With You is very into like creating like situations with like a bunch of different personalities in a room and like
Yeah.
and in that way it's different and like the tension that comes from that and it's like sort of like complicated because it's like, oh, this person's doing this thing, this person's doing this thing, whereas It's a Wonderful Life is very much like this one guy's just trying to get his fucking shit together.
Yeah, it's focused on one person. This,
Yeah.
You can't take it with you. There's too many fucking characters in it.
So the first like 20 maybe 25 minutes of the movie I was like, what is this thing up to? Because I can't really pin it down. Like
No.
it starts with Jimmy Stewart's dad. What's his fucking name?
His
Anthony
name's
P.
also...
Tony Kirby.
Yeah, they're both
Right.
Tony Kirby.
Right.
He's kind of a Nepo baby.
Yeah. His Jimmy Stewart's father is played by Edward Arnold. He's like a banker and he's just gotten, is he a banker or like he's just like a
Yeah,
businessman?
big time banker. But he also is like
A real estate
in
guy
real
or
estate.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another
movie-
vague business transaction where they're like, "We're closing major deals." It's like, well, what are those deals? What are you doing?
He just bought basically this entire like neighborhood so he can develop on top of it and like move all the tenants out, except there's one holdout which ends up being the Vanderhoff Sycamores.
It says here are the two major families that we're going to be focusing on. We have the Montagues, who are like this rich banker family. They're upper class. They're put together and they're very prim and proper and whatnot. And now here's this crazy ass family, and they're like, we don't pay our taxes and we just do whatever we dream to do. And I play the xylophone sometimes because I'm crazy.
Yeah. And this Russian wrestler
Who
dances comes over and he always
is
eats
this
dinner.
guy? Who is that man? Like when he's introduced,
Boris
I'm like,
Kolnikov, played by Misha Auer.
he's the best character in the whole piece. I'll be quite honest. He's just he's insane.
First of all, he just body slams Anthony Kirby at some point, like Jimmy Stewart's
Actually.
father.
It's like, dude, you're not related to anyone here. Fucking go home.
It must be cancer, and it's like, chill out, Boris. Do you like this
I love
movie?
it. It's slow for long stretches until it's just interrupted by some bombastic nonsense where I'm just like, wait, what the fuck? And it kind of just jolts you back into it. Like they're just sitting there having a conversation where the dialogue is rather uninteresting. Then all of a sudden, a fucking explosion from the basement happens because their old men are working on fireworks or something.
Yeah.
I'm also a little bit confused by it. I'm confused by its morals.
Lionel Barrymore has a lot of his character, Grandpa Vanderhoff, has a lot of like lines where it's like everybody has an ism nowadays. Communism, capitalism. He's like, all these isms. He's like, I'm tired of isms. And I was like, all right, chill out.
Yeah.
And then
He would
Yeah,
probably
then he
love
has, like-
libertarianism if he were alive today, I bet.
I'm like halfway there with you, I guess, but at a certain point it breaks down and I disagree. But like then there's the tax thing, and I think it's kind of cool that he doesn't pay his taxes because he's like, where's that money going? And then the guy's like, well, it's going to the thing. And it's like, he's
Yeah.
like, but how's it being used? And it's like, you just have to pay it to the IRS guy,
Yeah, but
which I
that's
think is
just
cool. And I think taxes are dumb.
well, taxes aren't dumb. Taxes pay for like government programs that we need as a country.
No, I don't think taxes are inherently bad. I just like kind of vibe with his rebellious
Yeah,
attitude.
I get that sentiment. It's like, well, how if you're taking my money, how are you spending it? And that's definitely a legitimate ask.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny though that he cites like because the IRS guy's like, well, we need to fund our battleships, and Grandpa is like, we haven't used battleships since the Spanish American War, and I'm like, World War II is coming.
Yeah, you guys are 3 years away. I basically like love this movie. I think it's so good.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so surprising to me.
I thought it was a blast and a half. I
No
thought,
way. Are you joking?
no, I'm not joking.
Okay.
Alice is like a really great character.
I think she's
Like,
pretty underdeveloped.
but I like that she is like a character with some agency. Like, I feel like in a lot of these, especially older romances, like the women don't have like any agency.
Yeah.
By the third act is telling the Kirbys to go fuck themselves.
Get those fat cats.
I buy Tony Jr. and Alice's romance.
I do admire how honest they are with each other, which is kind of rare for a relationship in a movie
Yeah.
from this era.
Usually the men are like keeping a secret and the woman has to just be fine with it by the end or something.
Yeah. So I guess that was nice. That whole scene where they're in Central Park and those kids like accost them. What is that? Is that a thing that happened
was
back
weird.
then? The
Yeah,
kids are like, "Hey, mister, give us money so we'll teach you how to dance."
you want to do the jitterbug?
And then they're like, "Scram, it's the cops." I'm like, what? Was this illegal? This is so weird. Teaching people how to dance in the fucking middle of the night.
I
Where are your parents?
well, I got the sense that those kids are like maybe like kind of poor and like are maybe like Oliver Twistian, sort of
I
out
guess
on
they
their
were
own.
probably little twists, I suppose.
This is very like much like it's the haves and the have-nots kind of. But I kind of see what you mean by the have-nots sort of like they're just like choosing not to participate in like society.
I find its whole take because, like, obviously, I agree with yes, you should follow your dreams. I like that sentiment. It's some people maybe consider it like a little too over saccharine, but it's nice. But then it kind of has this weird way, like 1930s way of arguing it, where it's like, oh, you shouldn't work in a job you hate to pursue your dream. You should get a job that you like, and that should be your dream. Well, it's like, no, your
Right,
dream
right.
could be something outside of your career.
Yeah.
Like they convinced Mr. Poppins is his name, that old guy who does accounting.
That's when that was happening, I think that's when the movie actually won me over because I was like, this is so weird.
It was
Like,
weird. Yeah.
Grandpa Vanderhoff convinces this guy to quit his job and live in his house with him.
And what is that? What?
It's crazy. I was like, this is so fucking weird.
But
Yeah,
he's like
what'd you say that character's name was?
Mr. Poppins, I believe.
Right. Mr. Poppins makes like these like he like jerry rigs these like toys together. He's like a toy maker.
Yeah.
And he like keeps them like under his desk
Just in
while
case.
he's like counting figures or whatever the fuck he does.
And it's like, yeah, you should do that. You should have the freedom to pursue that. But also, why does it have to be your? I feel like they're also
Why does that have to be
pigeonhole-
all you do?
Yeah, why are they pigeonholing him at the same time? They're like, no, you're actually a toy maker. It's like, no, you are you, and you should just do the things that you enjoy. It doesn't make you this or that. You don't have to put a label on it. I found that a little bit strange and antiquated.
Yeah, it's true. It's also like it's funny that it's like with the Mr. Poppins like weird like F plot, like it's such a small part of the movie, but like
Yeah, you
it's
think
like
it's gonna be larger, and then
Yeah,
he
'cause,
just
like,
kind of
there's, like-
disappears.
there's like a 5 minute scene where Grandpa Vanderhoff is trying to convince him to live with in his house, and it's like, but then yeah, it just sort of like becomes just a part of the fabric
Yeah.
of the movie. It's not like a big part.
He's shelved because we have to make room for Boris or whatever his name was.
Yeah, yeah. But I think like with Mr. Poppins, just to your point, like it is funny that it's like, oh, you should like it's almost as if Grandpa Vanderhoff is like, oh, you have a thing you love and you don't get to do it because you work at this job. But it's like, well, no, he showed you the thing he just made that he's done in his spare time.
Yeah.
So he's doing the thing he loves while also getting paid money so he can live.
Right. Like maybe his job stinks, but
And like, yeah, maybe he doesn't have as much time as he would like for the thing. But
yeah.
like under capitalism, you have to find your little pockets of time to do the thing you actually want to do.
Right. Capitalism is a broken system that functions basically on humankind's
Get him.
innate sense of want and a weird, twisted sense of belonging that we need to be in this sort of meritocracy in order to feel value. But I guess fucking good luck with your rabbit or whatever.
I guess it'd be less radical now, but it's a little bit radical in like the late 30s to be like, um, yeah, neighborhoods should support each other and shouldn't depend on like
Yeah.
the powers that be to like save them or help them. The police aren't here to help you. They're here to like pin you for stuff that you probably aren't even like guilty of and send you to jail for like no reason. I mean, they were making fireworks and that's maybe a little dangerous, but they weren't there for that at the end.
Right.
They were there because they thought they were communists, which they're not.
That's right.
They're not communists.
But it's
but
fine if you want to be that.
yeah. I like how kind of radical it is. I like it's and even in It's a Wonderful Life. That's why there's a lot of similarities. Is like, all right, some of the stuff that's similar. First of all, there's a blackbird in both movies that just like flies around.
Oh yeah,
And-
it's a random ass crow.
yeah, and I know that might seem small, but it's like when I saw it, I was like, that's bizarre that it's in both movies. Then, so the two families meet. It goes horribly. Tony Jr. makes his family go to the Vanderhoff Sycamore house on the wrong day. So because Alice is worried about the Kirbys seeing her family as they really are, which is like really quirky and weird and like
Is it?
fucking people are doing ballerina spins and like body slamming each other and
Yeah.
whatever.
That old guy dresses up as an old discus thrower and is like, paint me like one of your French girls.
Yeah, and then like Alice's mom is like writing plays.
Yeah.
Not because she wants to, but because a typewriter accidentally got delivered to the house once, and it's like I
Is
might as
that
well use
real?
it. So the Kirbys come. It goes horribly because the Vanderhoff and Sycamores are like behaving as they actually are. The Kirbys are like, these people are not for us. Kirby Sr. gets body slammed. Tony Kirby Jr. and Jimmy Stewart is having a blast.
Loves
He's like,
it.
this is going is exactly as I wanted it to go.
Yeah.
Alice is really pissed at him. So it goes bad. Fireworks are set off. The police are there because I'm just trying to sum this up so we can get to like the court jail stuff.
I got a question before we move on. One
Yeah.
of the cops looks exactly like Gene Hackman, like the head cop. And I'm
well,
like,
that was Gene.
I had to ask. I was like, it's definitely not him, but I just have to clarify just to make sure Gene Hackman's not like the immortal muse of some sort.
No, Gene was probably like 5 years old in 1938.
Okay. He was alive.
He might not have been. He might have been like 2. I think he was probably born in like 36, if I had to guess.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
it goes
they
back
round up
to-
everybody and put them all in jail.
They put them all in jail because whatever, they think they're communists, and also fireworks are set off and whatever. So they're both in jail. The two families, the women are in the women part of the jail, and the men of both families are in the male part of the jail.
Fellas.
Basically the drunk tank. It seems
Yeah.
like the jail, both jail cells are just like filled with like, it looks like people who got drunk. Kirby Sr. is getting really pissed at Grandpa Vanderhoff for making all this happen. And Vanderhoff finally snaps and is like, your money, like you think your money makes you happy, but it doesn't. Like it makes you a bad person. It makes you a bad father, and you're gum on the bottom of my shoe, and I think you can eat my whole entire little ass. He says that. It's
He does,
crazy.
yeah. It was kind of wild.
And he says like, your money you can't take. Basically, he's saying your money you can't take with you. Like when you die, all the shit that you care about so much goes also, and it doesn't like what matters is community and friendship and family and stuff and being a good person.
I just find it funny that the nice grandpa man goes off on this rant at this guy, and then it immediately is like, shucks, I don't know what I was saying. I'm sorry, pal. I'm sorry I called you a bad father.
I think that see, I like it though. I think that's what makes him regret what he said is like, oh, I didn't mean to call you a bad father. Like I know that's like way more personal than just saying like you're a greedy asshole.
But that is
Yeah,
the,
he's
that
like
is kind of the
he's like
thing that shakes him.
and then there's the court case or whatever, like the whatever, just to like see if these people should stay in jail or whatever. And like the Kirbys and the Vanderhoffs are like um a lot of like the tension is like finally released in that scene because it's like the Kirbys don't want to admit publicly that they went to the Vanderhoffs voluntarily to like discourse with them just like as people.
Which is insane.
It is a little bit weird. I'm like, this is like a little bit sweaty. Um, but so there's all that. Alice is like pissed. She finally admits like, no, we're in like me and Tony Jr. are like love each other and like our families were there to like meet each other, whatever. But the scene that reminded me of It's a Wonderful Life, the big scene where I was like, this is literally the same thing, is the Vanderhoffs are fined. They aren't kept in jail, but they're fined like $100.
Yeah.
Which in 1938 I can only assume
Oh, you want me to
was
tell you?
2 million. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, it was actually, you're pretty close. It was actually 2.38 million.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
So uh and it's like, "Oh God, how the fuck are they gonna pay?" And like then I think Kirby Senior starts to be like, "I'd like to pay," and then like then all the people there in
Yeah.
the
They're like, we don't want
crowd,
your fucking, your dirty
blood
money.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like all the crowd is all Vanderhoff friends.
Yeah.
Um and it's like a room full of like 150 people. And they're like, "No, keep your money. Kirby's like, we're gonna pay his fine." And like this entire community just like pays the fine for him, which I'm like, that is fucking democracy.
That's
that
exactly,
is good shit.
It's a Wonderful Life.
Well, yeah, the same thing happens in It's a Wonderful Life when like it's a similar thing where it's like the Great Depression's happening and like all these people are like taking less money to help each other out because like they know if like they're like, give me all of the money I have in this bank, other people won't get money. So it's like, all right,
Oh.
give me $20.
Well, but it's also like exactly the same as the final scene.
Oh, that's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's what I
where
mean.
they donate money
Jesus.
to the whatever the hell their name was. I can't even remember their names in the movie, but to prevent him from going to jail.
Yeah.
Except
Totally.
except it's the roles are reversed because it's Jimmy Stewart's character in It's a
Right.
Wonderful Life, and now it's the mean old grandpa, Mr. Potter, who's
Yeah.
the good guy.
So Kirby Senior's shaken to his core. What do you think of all this? Do you like any of this stuff? Is this stuff hitting for you? Are you just kind of watching,
At this point, I'm like,
eyes glazing over?
let's get to credits at this point, because I know exactly what's going to happen. You know, it's going to be, there's no way this doesn't have a happy ending. You know, like I know exactly what's going to go down. You know, they're going to reconvene, and because Alice runs off to Connecticut for some reason. She's like so distraught by this whole affair. She's like, I'm fleeing this
I'm going to
city.
New Haven.
I'm going to New Haven, which will be my haven.
Yeah.
Tony Kirby Jr. is like frantic trying to look for her to apologize. I don't really know what to just make amends, I guess. Or to just soothe her in some way because she calls off their marriage and all that stuff. But of course they end up back together in the end because and then the freaking the Kirbys realize the error of their ways, and then they all become one big happy family, and they play the harmonica, and it was a little bit predictable.
I just like how it's like he's lived his life one way his entire life.
Is it?
And he's like, I don't know how to do it the other way. And I'm
Is.
scared to do it the other way. I don't know who I am if I do it the other way.
Is.
But it's like Jimmy Stewart is eventually like, Dad, I don't want to be a part of this company anymore. Like, I know you were going to make me vice president or whatever. I have no interest in this because it's just like not me. And it takes his son leaving to be like, for him to be like, fuck,
I'm a
this
bad
is not
father.
the life that I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, bad father, exactly. Yeah, so that everything turns out fine, I guess. I feel like this episode is a little bit boring because I've been trying to sum up all this bullshit that happens. It's
So
a really
it is bullshit, you admit.
yeah, it is everything. I mean, all movies are bullshit. It's just I think all the stuff it does you've probably seen before, but I think it does it very well.
One
and I think
family
it's-
does what they want. Yippee! One family does what they're told. Taxes. This summer, they're gonna have to meet in the middle. It just takes some time. Little girl, in the middle of the right.
Yeah, that Jimmy Eat World needle drop was fucking crazy.
The Jimmy Stewart Eat World needle drop.
Yeah. Some of my other quick notes before we wrap up. I think the sincerity stuff it's really lovely. Like I think there's the nice scene between Alice and Grandpa Vanderhoff where I think Alice just tells him for the first time that she's engaged to Tony Kirby Jr. and he's telling her the story of like how he met her grandma and he's saying like this is why I'm never gonna sell the house because like this is like she is here, like she's here,
Yeah.
this is the house we built together and stuff. And I'm like that's like so it's like written very well, it's performed very well, it's very sweet.
Then he decides he's gonna sell the house anyway.
Yeah, but that's because he cares about Alice a lot.
But why
are
does
you
he-
an IRS agent? Why do you hate people not paying their taxes? That's the rich. The rich don't pay any fucking taxes.
Listen, I'm
The
all for
Vanderhoffs
that.
should be able to be allowed to live however way they want. And fucking Bezos should
I
pay
got news for you,
99%
pal.
of
The
his income to
Vanderhoffs are
taxes.
the Vanderhoffs are rich. I don't know how to break it to you. They have a giant apartment in New York
What
City.
do you mean?
I don't know. I'm saying I don't know how they get their money, but they have it because they don't have employment, but they still exist and subsist somehow.
They also have people working. They have a woman cooking for them.
What are they supposed to be? Are they?
Who played her?
I just think it's weird to have this dichotomy of here's your rich family and here's your fun family, but the fun family is. It doesn't feel complicated. It's like if you want to abandon this life, like the rich family is so cartoonishly, I'll say evil because they're just like these business fat cats who don't know how to have fun and whatnot. And then here's the family who does know how to have fun, but also like their life is obviously portrayed as so easy. Like they don't have to, there's no struggle. They don't have to go through any sort of conflict or adversity. It's just that we abandoned the idea of employment, and we're just going to break off from the norm, and it's actually worked out totally perfectly well, and you should all do that.
Yeah, it is a good point of like I agree with you. I just like didn't really care watching it, but it is funny.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like the Vanderhoff, like the message of the Vanderhoffs in the movie is like, you know, all that stuff like you're supposed to do in order to live. If you chose not to do it, it would probably work out fine. It's like that's such a bad message
It's like,
because it wouldn't.
and like I get it. I like the sentiment, and you can take certain things away from it, but you're right. Like it just wouldn't work out that way. It's just not reality,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Alice at one point in the court case says to Jimmy Stewart, next time you want to go slumming, stay away from our neighborhood. I thought it was a pretty cool line. I said, you're a girl boss, radicalized girl boss queen.
Hell yeah,
Slay.
slay.
Actually,
Steal.
I think it sounds like I'm being like flippant, but I did think it was actually fucking sick, and I did pump my fist and like get his fucking ass.
It did hit a little
Um,
fist pump on that.
oh, I have you ever seen Steve Jobs, the man? No, the movie with Michael Fassbender.
No, I've seen the Ashton Kutcher one.
That's horrific news. But I recommend it. It's really good. But Tony, what the fuck's his name? Tony
Kirby.
Kirby Sr. Realizing all this stuff and like they reminded me of Steve Jobs, where it's like by the end of Steve Jobs, it's like this man who was like insulated himself from emotion and stuff in order to like be really successful. And it's like, oh, but actually you have like a son that you need to like connect with because that's more important than like fucking your cigar chomping money bullshit.
Than your fucking iPod Nano.
Yeah. I'm gonna put 1,000 songs in your pocket. That's what he says.
Is that what he says? I got
Huh?
way more than that, pal. I got way more than that. I got 1,002. And they're all Gloria Estefan.
All right. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts about this fucking stupid ass movie?
You've changed course so
It
quickly.
sucks.
And I'm bitter. Yeah, it's no Citizen Kane, but it'll do, I suppose. I thought it was okay. I ultimately wouldn't really recommend this to anybody. I thought it was a little bit slow. In 1930s, it just seemed like the thing to do in order to add scope was to add more people to your movie, and I don't think they understood that that's not always good.
That's honestly a good point.
I mean, I just felt like there were too many characters and no one really had enough development.
Yeah, I love you, bud, but I disagree with that. I think
And that's
Alice's
fine.
development. I think Jimmy Stewart doesn't really have development, but I think the grandpa kind of has development. Obviously, Tony Kirby Sr.
The grandpa doesn't change at all. He doesn't change at all. He's just the same guy throughout, which is fine. He's like the agent of change in Tony Kirby Sr., I suppose.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
All right.
Fuck, Christ.
I'm just saying.
Um, I think this movie's really good, and I think people should watch it.
Okay.
It's a little long, I'd say. It's like 2 hour like slightly over 2 hours. Um, but it
That's-
is. I think the romance works. I think the class stuff is interesting and well observed in certain ways. Obviously, it's not a perfect, um, maybe exploration of this stuff, but I think it still has interesting things to say about
Mhm.
class and success and what it means to live in America even today. I mean, all these fucking people are white, so that also,
Yeah.
that's like that also like whatever. That's like a lot of these movies. It's like, oh yeah, that's hard, but like you're also white, so it's like
Yeah, there's like
a
a
little
whole
bit
other
easier.
class of people that are having a bit harder time right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it's like a really lovely little movie. Um,
Okay.
would you like to hear the other nominees for outstanding production in the year of 1939?
Yes, 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 yes.
So this is a year where there's 1 million nominees. So
Oh,
just
great.
buckle in and fucking get through these as quickly as possible.
I'll give you a 2-word synopsis for each.
Oh, that's good. I like that. So first we have The Adventures of Robin Hood, directed by
Oh.
Michael Curtis and William Cayley.
Okay.
It's kind of a movie that does what it says on the package. It's about Robin Hood fighting nobly for justice against the evil Sir Guy of Gisborne while striving to win the hand of the beautiful Maid Marian.
Sexy Fox.
Wrong movie,
Really?
but fine. I saw the one with Russell Crowe, weirdly.
Crow, we love you. Come on the show, bud.
It's one of those movies where it's like, oh, we planned it as a trilogy, and it's like, so the first movie is going to be
Oh.
before he's Robin Hood, and it's like, well, that's not what I'm here for.
Well, that
Why would
kinda
you start there?
sucks.
I don't care. Um, next up, we have Henry King joined Alexander's
Oh,
ragtime band.
yes.
Um,
Finally.
Classical violinist Roger Grant disappoints his family and teacher when he organizes a jazz band, but he and the band become successful. Roger falls in love with the band's singer Stella, but his reluctance to lose her leads him to thwart her efforts to become a solo star. When the World War separates them in 1917, Stella marries Roger's best friend, and when Roger returns home after the war, an important concert at Carnegie Hall brings the corners of the romantic triangle together. Sounds fine.
Whiplash Casablanca.
You got it.
Honestly, it sounds kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's probably pretty good. Um, Next up we have directed by Norman Taurog, Boys Town.
Yes. Boys Town. Boys Town. Boys Town.
Devout but iron-willed Father Flanagan leads a community called Boys Town, a different sort of juvenile detention facility where instead of being treated as underage criminals, the boys are shepherded into making themselves better people.
I don't like where this is going.
But hard-nosed petty thief and pool shark Whitey Marsh, the impulsive and violent younger brother of an imprisoned murderer, might be too much for the good father's tough love system.
He's a pool shark?
Mickey Rooney plays the little boy.
So weird. It just feels like a Twilight Zone-esque thing.
Next up, we have a King Vidor joint. We've talked about him before. He made this really famous silent movie called The Crowd, which is pretty good.
He's got a cool name.
It's called The Citadel.
Oh.
Andrew Manson, a young, idealistic, newly qualified Scottish doctor, arrives in Wales.
If I
takes
may.
his first job to take his first job in a mining town. And begins to wonder at the persistent cough many of the miners have. I was not expecting that. When his attempts to prove its cause are thwarted, he moves to London. His new practice does badly, but when a friend shows him how to make a lucrative practice from rich hypochondriacs, it will take a great shock to show him what the truth of being a doctor really is. What the fuck is that?
What the fuck?
He tries to diagnose black lung, can't do it. And then he's like, I'm leaving to rip off rich hypochondriacs.
What is that? It's like,
Jesus
fuck
Christ.
this. I thought I could do it, but I don't have the gusto to cure the black lung. So these miners could just go fuck themselves.
Yeah, like literally, it's like he's like, whatever. Jesus Christ.
He's the hero?
I guess.
Honestly, I'll give it a spin.
Yeah, let's watch fucking The Citadel. We'll double feature The Citadel in Boys Town. Next up, we have Four Daughters, directed by Michael Curtis, his second Best Picture nominee this year because he was the co-director of The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Oh.
They really love to nominate people a million times.
There were only like 4 people doing this.
It's a good point. Four Daughters is about musician Adam Lemp and his 4 equally musical daughters, Emma, Anne, Kay, and Thea, who live happily together. Each daughter has an upstanding young man for whom she cares. However, the arrival of a cynical, slovenly young composer named Mickey Borden turns the household upside down, and romantic and tragic complications ensue. Sounds fine.
How did he get there? Why did he show up? This Mickey. Fucking Mickey Rooney is here.
You gotta watch out for a Mickey. Don't take my daughters away. Next up, we have Grand Illusion, directed by Jean Renoir. What did he do? Why do I know that? Oh, he directed Rules of the Game. Grand Illusion is about a group of French soldiers, including the patrician Captain de Baldieu and the working class lieutenant Maréchal, who grapple with their own class differences after being captured and held in a World War I German prison camp. When the men are transferred to a high-security fortress, they must concoct a plan to escape beneath the watchful eye of aristocratic German officer von Raffenstein, who has formed an unexpected bond with de Baldieu. That sounds really good.
I think I blacked out. the whole time you were saying that.
That's crazy. Two guys with class differences who are French soldiers. They end up working together to break out of a German prison camp in World War One.
Okay,
Basically,
that's cool. I like
that
that.
sounds sick.
Yeah.
I've heard of the Grand Illusion. I think it's fucking. I added it to my watch list on Letterboxd because it sounds good.
Okay. Let me know how it is.
Next up, we have Little Freak Jezebel.
No.
Jezebel. Directed by William Wyler. Who could have
Yes.
fucking guessed that he'd be nominated?
Let's go. My man.
Directs like 3 movies a year, probably.
Bill's
In
going off.
1850s Louisiana, the willfulness of a tempestuous Southern belle threatens to destroy all who care for her.
Yes. Burn it to the ground, baby.
It's probably fine, I guess. Next up, we have Pygmalion.
Ew.
Yeah. A Leslie Howard and Anthony Asquith joint. When linguistics professor Henry Higgins boasts
What?
that he can pass off Cockney flower girl Eliza.
No, you're joking.
Oh, this is just. What the fuck? This is fucking.
What? This is My Fair Lady?
Yeah. What the hell? When linguistics professor Henry Higgins boasts that he can pass off Cockney flower girl Eliza Doolittle as a princess with only 6 months training, Colonel George Pickering takes him up on the bet. Eliza moves into Higgins' home and begins her rigorous training after the professor comes to a financial agreement with her dustman father, Alfred. But the plucky young woman is not the only one undergoing a transformation. I guess
What?
it's like, I'm guessing it's not a musical. I'm guessing it's just like a straight version of the story.
That makes me very curious, actually.
Yeah, plus, you know how My Fair Lady was 3 hours long?
Yeah.
This movie is half the length at a brisk 96 minutes.
Maybe worth checking out because
Yeah,
although it doesn't have the magic of Audrey Hepburn,
that's true.
it's I liked this. I liked the story of My Fair Lady. I just didn't like the music.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I wonder if
It also
that's why
seems
My
like-
Fair Lady won the Oscar because they were like, it
Oh,
is
we
an
didn't
o-
give it to we didn't give
yeah.
it to Pygmalion 30 years ago.
yeah, it's an homage to old shit.
Right. It always comes back to old shit in
It
this
always
fucking place.
does.
And finally, last but certainly least, we have a Victor Fleming film,
Oh.
director of Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind, etc., called Test Pilot. Jim is a test pilot.
Hey,
His wife Anne and best friend Gunnar try
Yeah.
their best to keep him sober. Was not
Uh-oh.
expecting that. But the life of a test pilot is anything but safe. So it's a drunk test pilot. I assume it ends in tragedy.
so this.
Right? It has to end in like some like really suspenseful sequence where he's drunk and flying a plane, and they're like, "No, Jim."
Jim, you gotta land the plane.
He's like drinking like fucking a Budweiser, a Coors.
He's just slamming cores.
Yeah.
Mary, I'll land when I'm ready. Once I'm through with this Jim Beam.
Once I'm through with this IPA.
It's a double. And you better believe I'm going to do a double barrel roll.
So those are the nominees. Do you think you can't? What the fuck is this movie called? You can't take it with you. Do you believe You Can't Take It With You is Best Picture worthy?
I guess, man. I don't know. If this feels like a weird class. I haven't seen the other nominees, but it kind of just feels like a weird time for making movies where they just really haven't. No, I can't even.
Cracked
I can't say that they haven't nailed it because we've seen good movies from this era.
Yeah,
I just didn't really like Can't Take It With You.
gotcha.
So I'll say no. Bye bye.
I would say it's Best Picture worthy. I guess. Right?
All right.
Yeah, I would say
All right.
that. Like I really thought it was great, but yeah, it's Best Picture worthy.
If I could be honest, the shit that we have to say, it doesn't matter. Doesn't make a difference in this world. Doesn't matter for shit. What matters is the will of the people. So, in that respect,
It's a very Capra sentiment.
very Capra sentiment. I've sourced some reviews from the internet for this film that Frank Capra made. Would you like to hear some of them?
Yeah.
Give me the name of somebody who's maybe a bit ageist. It's like, but in a fun way.
In a fun way?
Yeah.
Me.
Oh, okay. Michael O'Brien says 2 stars. This movie is why I hate old people, I think. And no, I won't explain this pathway of thinking.
Incredible. How many stars was that?
2. The perfect amount. Honestly, permission to change the scale for rating movies from 5 stars to just out of 2 stars.
Right. It's either like 1 or 2
Yeah.
or 0, I guess.
Yeah, 0, 1, or 2. Those are the options.
0 is not good. 1 is fine. 2 is great.
Honestly, I think that would make things a lot easier.
That is pretty good.
Would you like to hear a 4-star review?
Absolutely.
Give me the name of somebody who is going to the zoo this afternoon.
Fucking you, man.
Alexander Andriadis says 4 stars. I just want Jimmy Stewart to accept me and my quirky-ass family. Even if my father sometimes tries to blow up the house with fireworks, and my sister's Russian dance teacher, who's always at our house for some reason, sometimes picks people up and slams them down on the living room floor without their consent. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah. They're arguably too quirky.
Yeah.
I like that, like, you know, the Vanderhoffs / Sycamores are like living in their own world. It seems, doing whatever they want. But then occasionally, like, the IRS will show up and be like, hey, you haven't paid taxes in like 2 decades. What the fuck's up with that? Or like the police will be like, hey, you're communist, so you're under arrest. Like, it's funny that like the complicated world keeps intruding on their like peaceful oasis.
Yeah, because they can't truly flee, I suppose.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, give me the name of somebody who is going to space this afternoon.
Chasley Thurderboard.
Chasley Thurderboard says, 1 star. I think I'd rather hang out with the family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Never seen that movie, but I assume it's probably not a fun family.
It's funny that I think it's really funny that everybody most people find the fucking Vanderhoffs insufferable. I found them charming mostly.
Yeah, I mean, they're not insufferable. Like, I think they'd be fun to hang out with. Like, I like the guy who plays the xylophone and the lady who was writing a play. Like, they're all fun. I like the things that they do. It's just that I can see it's a bit grating in a cinematic setting.
Yeah.
That's all.
Amen.
Can't take it with you.
Can't take it with you. Hug your sons.
Hug your sons and your daughters.
Yeah.
And daughters will learn to hug your sons.
Yes, that's the episode. Next week we're talking a Norman Jewison joint, In the Heat of the Night.
Nice.
In the heat of the night.
Of the moment. Right.
Oh.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll get it when the episode comes.
I was sort of using Beyonce's "We're Gonna Fuck Up the Night."
That was mine too. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about In the Heat of the Night next week.
Cool.
With Sidney Poitier and
Watch out.
some white fucking racist asses.
Get them out of here.
Look out for that. In the meantime, you know, like those pastry cream guys that you fill like donuts with?
Yeah, I'm already nauseated. Go on.
What you're gonna do is you're gonna plug a little hole in one of them doggies that you got. Maybe get a bigger dog so it's more surface area for you to plug up. Fill it with just like a nice baker's cream.
Ew. Okay. A sweet dog.
Put it on a sugary little bun.
Okay.
And have yourself a little dessert after a really heavy dinner. Have a sweet hot dog.
And for dessert, a sweet dog.
Yeah. Anyway, see you next week, Wieners.
1, 2, 3, 4. These boys only want the best stuff. They want the cream of the crop. They don't want none of that microwave shit. They want the shit that bops. Oscar bait, black and white. maybe something French. If it's got more than one explosion, honey, put that shit on the bench. Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners, Oscar Wieners. These boys are the Oscar Wieners.